Okay, so I'm back again with another video. Today I'm looking at the Nintendo Direct that was just yesterday, Tuesday, about 3 o'clock. It hit. This was a Direct that sort of mashed two small Directs together, so it was an Indie World Direct and the Partner Showcase Direct, which are normally about 20 minutes each. So they sort of mashed them together and we got a 40-minute hit of quality stuff, in my opinion. Like obviously the Switch is on its way out. Everyone's like gearing up for Switch 2, but Nintendo is still like not announcing it. They're still not saying anything about it, which I think is good in a long way. They're building this anticipation, and they're still bringing out games. Like again, as I said, like really with the Switch, the position they're in, they're not really in a rush to do anything. Like they're making so much money with what they've got, and I think it just speaks to the power of that console that these indie world direct and the partner showcase direct did really well. I think that they showed some interesting stuff. Like again, it's you have to set your expectations for an indie world. I don't, I think some people like they expect some great amazing games to come out. It's like, well, they are amazing games, but they're not going to be graphically impressive. They're not going to be like the most interesting thing you've ever seen or some, but they're just some interesting little things to think about, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them look like, oh, I might check that out. I mean, the most ridiculous one was a game that was all about falling in love with your household appliances. There was one where I was like, it's a dating game and you're meant to, your household appliances take on life forms, you have to date them. I was like, that sounds absolutely dreadful, but again, I wouldn't have thought of that idea. It's at least funny and different, and I'd rather have these little indie games that are so weird and odd. Like another one where you have this moth working in some sort of uh, like 9 to 5 job as a moth with all these other insects in this factory or something, or this building. It's so weird. I was like, well, again, give them props. It's different. Um, yeah, they're going to be short games for sure, but they do look interesting. At least some of it piqued my interest. There was a good variety of stuff. That's the indie one. The indie one was not as good as the partner one. The partner one was a bit better, but overall, I was really like I thought it was fine. That's like I do with most indie world directs. I don't see it as a disappointment, or I don't see it as like an amazing thing. It's just something in the middle to sort of keep you going. And at this stage, like they're just keeping the console afloat with stuff that's coming out relatively soon. And they showed a lot of games. Like they showed over 50 games across these two showcases. Apparently, that's really good. And so like I know that often the thing that goes with a Nintendo Direct is, especially the indie world, they expect every single Nintendo Direct. There's this ridiculous expectation from a lot of nerds that we're going to show Silk Song. Like Silk Song is the sequel to Hollow Knight, which is like 8 years ago, and they're wondering where the sequel to Hollow Knight's gone, and seen little bits and pieces of it here and there, and they've not said anything about it for years. And it's like, well, why do we have to have Silk Song every time? Why always have this same thing? Oh, well, we're going to show Silk Song. Oh, it's shit. We didn't show it. I'm like, why do we need it? Like, there's so many other games. When that game comes out and when it drops, it will be great. It looks really good. I love the first Hollow Knight. I've not finished it, but it's great. I will definitely get Silk Song. I am looking forward to it. But I'm like, why this online obsession with, oh, we're going to show Silk Song. Why haven't we shown it yet? Why isn't it out yet? Well, because it's not ready. Like, the game's not finished. So there it is. It's probably a small team. They're probably putting a lot of love and care into it to make sure it's good. And I'd rather take that over a game that just gets chucked out there and it's shite. So, like, so what? There's hundreds of games to play. It's not like there's nothing else out. So I get rather sick of, or people expecting every like game from an indie showcase is going to be like the Turtles Shredder's Revenge which everyone loved, which is great. I love that game. But it's like, well, it's a big IP Turtles, and it was a very specific niche thing that worked really well. And yeah, it was still an indie game, but I'm like, you're not going to get many like that. You're not going to get many that. And I think there's quite a few that look interesting. Maybe they're not as good as that's Shredder's Revenge, but there's some really good looking games, I think. So I think people sell the indie world a bit short. Again, you got to check your expectations at the door, graphics wise, especially because it's no longer the Switch isn't graphically capable of very much. But that limitation, I think, often is made for some quite creative games, and some of them do look terrible. Like there's no advice about it. Some of them do look dreadful, but I think overall, at least you're getting a variety of different things. I'm not seeing like 5 first-person shooters in a row or 5 like Souls-likes in a row, all identical. Like they all look different. But that was it. And then the partner one I thought was better. Like I was really into that, and they announced some cool stuff again, like Marvel versus Capcom, a new collection's coming out next year. Looks and sounds absolutely brilliant. Power Stone 1 and 2 come back. I love the original Power Stone. I never played Power Stone 2. I love those old school 2D Capcom fighting games before they went to 3D. I think when they went to 3D, they lost something. I love the old style 2D graphics. They look brilliant, especially when it's been obviously updated now. I love that sort of those sort of games are brilliant. And the original Capcom game that they announced a bit ago, the Fighting Collection 1, is coming out soon. It's coming out September, November for a physical copy. I'm not about physical copies anymore. I'll do a video about that another time, but I just don't see the point of getting a physical copy of anything anymore. So I get a digital copy of it when that comes out. Looks great, brilliant, fantastic. That's the fact that got me happy. There was quite a things that I thought were good, quite a lot. Even a Room Factory farming game thing, like a prequel or something, I thought looked pretty good. I thought it looked quite interesting. I'm getting into my JRPGs more now. I used to hate JRPGs, and I sort of start to give more of them a chance, and just to see what they're like, So I've got an old Room Factory game. I've got Harvestella and stuff. I've not tried it yet, so I'll do some videos on that when I try these JRPG farming games. I think I'll do a specific video for these JRPG farming games just to see what I think of them. But yeah, it's interesting to see these games still coming out for a system that's this old, still announcing stuff and showing a lot of stuff that's coming out. A lot of it is remakes, remasters, but they do look good. It's not just for the sake of it. And we're not hedging all the bets on that, like it's a console, doesn't really have anything left to prove. If it have any more good games, it's going to be an amazing thing. And Suikoden 1 and 2 being remastered in HD look brilliant. And those are two old JRPGs I never played back in the day. I always wanted to. My friend absolutely loved them. He said Suikoden 2, he thought it was better than Final Fantasy 7. He was like, it was absolutely brilliant. And I never played those games. I just didn't own them. I didn't have them. And I really have always been intrigued about what they were like. So Suikoden 1 and 2 remastered, brought back, brilliant. Also DLC for Sea of Stars, which looks great. I've not even played the first one, but free DLC, that's always good. Just tons of great stuff between these two directs, I thought. Like, not blowing the doors off, but at the same time, interesting stuff I'm hyped for. At least in a little way, Dragon got a little bit more of a look at Dragon Quest, the remake of that's coming out, Dragon Quest 3, which I want to get because I've tried to play the old ones and I really can't get into the old ones. The old ones are too old. Like, I do like my retro games, but there is a ceiling where I'm like, this is just too old. And the first Dragon Quest, I've tried it, couldn't play it really, and I've not even attempted the original second one. So I'm happy to play the remaster versions of 1, 2, and 3 when they finally come out again for Switch. And a brilliant Castlevania collection as well. I eat up Castlevania like no one's business. I acquire more games than I've finished. Like, I've finished very few of the Castlevania games. And my all-time favourite is still Symphony of the Night, which bizarrely enough is the only one that's not on. They've not put on the Switch. It's Symphony of the Night, which is still the best Castlevania game in my opinion. But I like the original Castlevania collection. I really like the DS collection that came out. The first one, it's Advance, sorry, the Castlevania Advance games. And now we've got like some ones from the DS era, and I think there was a lot of Game Boy ones that have been put on the Nintendo Online as well. So there's a lot of good ones. And so I honestly thought that was good as well. I won't like rush to get it and anything, but a Castlevania collection's always good. And I think that the good thing about Nintendo is that they're acknowledging the quality of their older franchises, and they're remastering stuff, not remaking stuff. And I think that's the key. Like, you don't need to remake the flipping thing; just remaster it to a standard that's better. Like, this is what my argument was Final Fantasy 7. I'm like, yeah, these games are good. The original remake was great. I'm not going to on about Rebirth again, but I've said a piece on it in other videos. I'll talk about it again. But like, did it need to be this massive 3-game magnum opus where each game's like 50 hours long and it's going to take 15 years for them all to come out, and they have all these side quests and it expands the story and adds all these extra things? I was like, it could just have been a very simple remaster of 7 with better graphics, better quality models, better quality effects on the fighting and stuff. Keep the chibi style but update it a bit, make it a little bit nice, a bit neater, update the graphics so it looks a bit more, it pops a bit more. Like, they could just have done a version of Final Fantasy 7 that would have been that, just a sort of a 2.5D HD remake, and it was essentially the same thing apart from that. And I honestly think that would have been enough, and that could have been made in like a year or 2 years. Like they could have easily just done and they've done pixel art remasters of the original 6 games. And the interesting thing about that is the original Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there were 3D remakes of some of those games, and we haven't bothered putting those to Switch, or they've just sort of dropped them. And I think they've realised that the sort of the pixel art style, that classic style, actually suits those early games better than the sort of, because those 3D games, they were quite good, but at the same time it was on it's 3DS, so it would look a bit rough. 3D stuff, unless it's top quality, always looks a bit rough. It always dates worse than 2D, I think. So, why not just do the same treatment for Final Fantasy VII? Just up-res it a bit, change it a bit. Yeah, add a few more detailed textures, add some more effects and stuff, and like spruce it up so it looks amazing. Like these other games that are coming out now that look great, like the Suikoden ones and other things. Just make it to that standard. Like it doesn't need to be a complete ground-up remake. Blah blah. Like I mean, it's great what we've done with it in a way, but another way, I'm like, you've just milked it and sort of killed it. You kind of killed the dream, in my opinion, by sort of overdoing that a bit. And again, maybe when all 3 games are out in like 10 years' time or whatever, and I sit down and find 500 hours to play them all, I'll be like, yeah, it was worth it. It's waiting all this time for a redo of Final Fantasy VII, but I don't think you critically need to keep changing the story either. I was like, why would I change that story? The story was near enough perfect. Anyway, I'm getting off on a rant here about Final Fantasy, which I should be focusing on the Direct, which was solid and good. And then the Yakuza games coming to the Switch. Again, Yakuza's a game series that's just passed me by. I know it was quite big on PS2 towards the end of that life cycle, and I never actually played the games. And it's one of those game series that I'm always sort of sick of hearing about, but people love it, so I would give it a chance. There's sort of an entry point into the Switch. That's why I like the Switch, because it gives you an entry point into all game series that maybe years ago you didn't get into, and you can sort of get the collection or get this game, and I can prick it up and maybe see what it's like, and maybe it will get me into Yakuza. Like the Persona games are like that. I never played the Persona games at the time. Played Persona 4, really loved it. Got Persona 5, like that as well. So I'm into Persona now, and I wouldn't have been if it hadn't been for the Switch. So, a lot of that is good. So overall, a really good, solid Direct. 8 out of 10 if I was going to give a mark to it. Yeah, and it's that's probably the last one we're going to have for a while from Nintendo. Like I don't expect another one before the end of the year. I think the next one we have will be whenever they decide to announce for Switch or Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be. But I still don't know if that'll be this year. I honestly still think it could be early January before we're hearing something about it. I really don't think they're in any hurry to announce that thing. And it's almost like the longer they sit on it, the more anticipation builds for it, the more pre-orders they'll get for it, the more business they'll get, the more traction that thing will get. Like, there's nothing, and people still, as I said in another video, people still buying Switches, people still buying Switch games. Like, yes, it's slowed down somewhat, but it's still going. So yeah, interesting. There are a ton of good games coming out for Switch end of year, but I've got so many Switch games already. I really need to stop buying Switch games. I need to stop, like, partly watching these directs is bad because it encourages me to buy more when I don't need any more. Like even that Capcom collection that's sort of tempting me, I don't really need it, so we'll see. But yeah, I've got lots of Switch games I need to review, and over time I will be reviewing on my channel all the games I have because I've got a lot of them, especially the RPGs. I've got tons, so yeah. Time to stop buying games and stop playing them and maybe stop reviewing them a bit as well. So yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say really on that Nintendo Direct. It's not a really long video this time. I'm perfectly happy with what we saw. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's dreadful. I don't think it was mind-blowing either. It was just somewhere a bit more than in the middle. I'd say it wasn't mediocre. It was better than mediocre. It was good. It was good and solid. And there were some good games that I'm surprised to see and happy to see. And yeah, that's it.